Sundaram, sir?
I'm there, madam.
Sir, shall we start the session? Or you want
Yes,
to-
madam. Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Okay. Shruti, ma'am?
Ma'am, shall I start?
Yeah, ma'am. After starting, you request
I request.
the camera.
I kindly request all the participants to please switch on your videos for a moment, as we will be taking photograph for documentation purpose. I request all the participants to switch on your videos. Participants, please switch on your videos. I request all the participants to switch on the video. Ma'am, shall I continue?
Yes, ma'am. Photos has been taken, right, ma'am?
Photos, one second.
Screenshots.
Yes, ma'am. Once again, I'm taking. Participants, please switch on your videos. Okay. Once again, a warm welcome to you all to the session 2. Now I request Sir to take over session 2, titled Introduction to Green Economy and Sustainable Agriculture. Sir, over to you.
Thank you so much, madam. The last session, we got some 2 or 3 discussion. We went into 2 or 3 discussion points. So this title also has something to do with the discussion. If our people are interested, then I'll be happy to even take it as a interactive mode and on an interactive mode also. So just wanted to get to know from our people what exactly we can, if at all, we want to think about sustainable agriculture and green economy. What is that we should do? Even you can put it in the chat box so that all will also get to know about what is what. Just your thoughts on green economy and sustainable agriculture. So if you have any points, that will be helpful for all to understand, or if you want to open up your audio and also you can give a little more information about that so that we can continue to discuss with my slides. Yeah, that's wonderful. I could see one answer. Reduce waste. Wonderful. Any other points which can add value to our discussion? So of course, this is not
Good
going to be
evening,
a
sir.
bigger.
Good
Yes,
evening,
yes.
sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sustainable agriculture, if I'm not wrong, it is organic farming using less pesticides, all that, fertilizers.
Fine, madam. Fine.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Fine, I'm not getting much answer, so it's okay. Reduce environmental risk. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very much.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. For growing population by 2050.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, now it's fine, sir.
By 2050, almost we will reach up to 160 or 170 crores, sir.
Mm.
By this growing population, how could we feed this entire world with with only organic farming? That is my question, sir. So we need to adopt integrated farming system, sir, by balancing the nutrients and as well as available resources for future generations. We need to adopt integrated farming system, sir. That's
Yes,
from
sir.
my side, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Not only
much.
depending on organic farming or natural farming,
Right.
we can go with integrated farming systems.
Yes, sir. Even we are getting a lot of answers. You can see on the chat box also. Farming without harming soils, right? Eco-friendly and using renewable energy in agriculture, protect soil structure. India
Yes,
must
sir.
prioritize renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, urban planning, transportation, industrial reforms, and public awareness and education. Long-term protection without damaging the ecosystem. Wonderful. We are getting a lot of answers. It's nice to see a lot of answers, right? So, but everything revolves around this kind of thought process only. We are no different from thinkers of other world, other countries, or the best thinkers of the world also called us. We are also thinking, everybody is thinking a different format. See, the one thing I just wanted to thrust here is when we talk about green economy and sustainable agriculture, I am not talking about the livelihoods or lives of the people in terms of green economy. I'm relating green economy only with sustainable agricultural practices, right? So why we are talking about this sustainable agricultural practices is this. You know, now India faces lot of issues in terms of quality water. Why we are facing this problem with quality water? Any idea about this? India is one of the countries, India is one of the countries working or extracting more groundwater than any other countries in the world. This water is used for only two purposes. One is agriculture, second one is human consumption, right? But the convention, if you go back in those days, we were surviving only with surface water and little amount of well water wherever there is an opportunity. And very little amount of population was banking on the water from hilly areas, right? And the rivers were flowing, but our people went there and took bath. The ponds had water, lakes had water. Our people went to the waterfront, we took bath, right? But there are always the plus, the minus, haves, have nots, greens, reds. So there are areas where people are endowed with water. There are areas where people never had problems. They never had water. They had problems due to climate conditions. The migration happened very less even in that kind of problems, but people endured that issues also by using the kind of interventions or technologies of that particular period. When there were problems with the surface water, we started digging wells. Even the best wells, deepest wells we can see in Gujarat and other parts, the central plains, our areas, they are all examples of our people also had wonderful thoughts to manage water. And very interestingly, unlike West, Indian population, I'm telling you very specifically, the India we are talking about Indian economics, Swadeshi economics. Indian population, in spite of these problems, Indian population had the habit of taking bath on a daily basis. I hope all will endorse this. If there is no water, how people took bath on a daily basis? Some or other, we were managing this availability of water all through the year, 365 days for us to take bath. And all people were surviving taking quality water. Here and there were problems. We never had this kind of salty water problems in those days, except some pockets. We never had this pollution, microplastic pollution, or antibiotic pollution, or micropollutants in water like what we have in those days. But there was a big difference. We had only 35 crore, 30 crore, even less than that before that, right? Now we are grown multifold in procreation. I'm using this word, right? We moved out of joint families to nuclear families. In spite of government coming up with wonderful family planning systems, we failed miserably in controlling our population. So government's burden on provisioning all these things also going up like anything. Gandhiji said, nature has given everything for human needs, but not for human greed. But what we do now is work is, live is in the era of human greed. We want fans, we want air conditioners, we want luxury cars, we want luxury transport systems, we want luxury offices. One recruiter in a college, rural college said, "Sir, our students are very different. Our student nowadays, recent discussion I was talking about, they will come to the class whenever they want. We have to do all the practicals for them. We have to give pass marks to all these people. Immediately after getting pass marks at the final year, we have to organize campus interview. Once we organize the campus interview, they need to be assured of 20,000 rupees monthly salary. And the 20,000 monthly salary also has to be given in air conditioned rooms. That too, this air conditioned office should be somewhere in the vicinity where they live, the rural settings. How is it possible for us to run the college? That's what the question teacher asked me. So what shall we do? These people went around and finally got hold of one company into financing, rural financing. That fellow offered jobs for few students, and after 3 months, all students came out because the job of these fellows is to go to the village and get back the money given by these financial institutions. It is not at all possible, not at all sustainable, not at all workable also, I would say, because every household has its own dimensions. They go take money from different areas because of the economic shift happening across the country over a period of years, months, decades. So even we are not ready to even reduce our luxuries also. We are increasing our luxuries. If you want to do the way we do when marriages in those days also is a big money exercise. We want to gift best things for our friends. We are not frugal. In finance area, we used to have a very interesting word called Dutch. You know what is Dutch? That man, that money. Finished. When I visited Germany, we went to a hotel for a dinner. 11 people were there. Everybody ate whatever they wanted. After everything is finished, the bill came and the team sat together. They discussed who ate what, right? And all these things were apportioned according to the person who ate that one. Finally, there was a tax. The tax was divided by 11, added to the individual's account. Everybody paid their money, euros from their pocket. Finally, the full money was given to the hotel. This is called Dutch way of doing things. So Indians are little different. If four people go to a tea shop or hotel, one fellow will flaunt saying that as if he is the wealthiest person in the world and he will spend all the money. Are we changing? It has to do with lifestyles, expectations. Everywhere we have to change. The collectivism is very less in Indian conditions. In spite of huge population, we need to move towards collectivism. If I want to go, I will go in my car. I will not do a carpooling. If I want to go, I will go in my two-wheeler. I will not take other person, even if it is known to me. Right? If I want to go to office, I will go on my car, or I go different ways. I will not take the public transport system. Right? So those are all the things also started adding to the burden of the country. So it is not that we are talking about in isolation. We are not living in silos, but we have to start thinking collectively. Waste. We have now complexes, housing complexes. How many housing complexes have their own waste processing facility? Only the Indore Corporation or Pune Corporation or few other corporations insist on these people having their own pits. One day dedicated for one pit. One pit dedicated for one day. Something like that. And that too, I don't know how many people follow this. Very few pockets I saw that also happening. So the collectivism has to come into place for us to achieve this. How do we help the growing population? How to meet the requirements? That is what I was telling in the earlier session also. Our farmers had the wisdom. We had cereals, pulses, oil seeds. That was the formula we had in those days. The cereals were extracting the nutrients from the nitrogen from the soil. Pulses were adding nitrogen to the soil, right? And later comes oil seeds. Oil seeds add more carbon to the soil because their wastes are going to the field. Paddy cereals also wasting their stubbles in the field. Pulses also wasting their stubbles in the fields. And few, at least, if you apportion that 100%, out of this 100%, 40% will go as a yield, crop yield. Another 40% will go as a hay. Other 20% will be gone as a stubble. This stubble slowly will start degrading in the soil and that will become food for the next crop. That is our wisdom helped. Now what happened? The moment you harvest the crop, immediately we use huge monstrous machines to plow that soil. Everything goes to the soil. We add degraders, we add chemicals to disintegrate all the stubbles available there. We are hastening the process chemically and mechanically. What was happening naturally is now chemically and mechanically converted into small pieces. So the next crop starts in another 10 days time. This is what the Punjab problem. 3 crops, continuous cropping systems. We don't give gap between the crops. We don't alternate crops in between the crops. So this is an issue. We need to educate this. If you have to educate this, we have to provide enough money and livelihood for the farmers from the government side. How do we do this? If farmer skips one crop, he may need 10,000 rupees as livelihood. Will the government come up with the policies? We have to enact policies for that. And if one farmer starts taking this money, all farmers will come and line up. Today I was hearing Prashant Kishore, the wonderful advisor, political advisor of governments now contesting Bihar elections, talking about giving 2,000, 6,000 rupees for women of Bihar. Very interesting. All political statements, right? But where will you go for 1.7 lakh crores to be dumped in? Dumped only as a dole to the women of this country, women of the state. It's going to be difficult. So we need to think differently to come up with all these things. It is not one person can do magic, bring a magic. So it requires everybody coming together. Governments also should become more responsible nowadays. Slowly we are moving towards that, but it takes longer time for us to move. It is not that is happening just like that. That is where we need to think differently. We know very well our soils are devoid of organic matter. No soils. In those days, before independence, we had at least almost closer to 1% in our soils. Now it is less than 0.5%. And we go on adding chemical fertilizers to our soils. We talked about sustainability. Then fertilizers are produced in huge monstrous machine companies. And they use huge energy to produce your urea. Urea is organic because it's mixture of nitrogen and hydrogen. Haber-Bosch process. But if you have to bring this nitrogen and hydrogen, it requires huge energy, heat, 400 to 500 degrees centigrade. You have to bring together and fuse that to bring out a magical bullet called urea, right? That is what the UK and Germany was fighting in the World War II period time. The World War II was fought for only urea technology alone, I would say. British wanted to steal the technology. They sent a team of people to, you can read a wonderful book, right? Very interesting books also, how fertilizers came into existence in agriculture, right? It was nitrogen, ammonia, the ammonium nitrate production, the kind of technology used for this kind of things. Germany was leading the table in industrialization in those days, and British wanted to conquer that, and the war started between two countries that has become a world war. And waste fertilizers and waste ammunition kept in the godown started leaking next to the cropland, and that leakage that converted the crop also into green. So there started the green revolution also. Oh, the ammunition also can be used as a fertilizer, right? There started the process of chemical fertilization of soils, industrialization of chemical fertilizer production. 1920s, 1930s. Churchill was the chief prime minister of Britain, right? All these things happened. So world also dabbles with many new ideas and hits on the wall or some block and again hurdle and come back and finally start uh, babbling, blabbering. Oh, this is a problem, that is a problem, and you ask the researchers to work on the technologies and come up with new interventions. Again, bowl the ball, right? And again go and hit somewhere, come back, again work on this. This is what we were working on, nuclear technologies. And at one point of time, the Nobel Prize is given, the Alfred Nobel. Why? Because of this, right? So finally, what happened? Then we saw nuclear technology as detrimental to many areas. We say nuclear technology can be used only for good purposes, not bad purposes. Every country has its own moratorium, right? And there's a ESOF, East and Southeast Asian Federation of Soil Science in Southeast Asian countries. I had a chance attending one of these conferences. Very interestingly, Japan came up with the FNCA. You can go and find out what is FNCA. Nuclear technology, Japan. Japan said that time itself, I'm talking 25, 30 years back, they said we will use nuclear technology only for good purpose, not for bad purposes. Interestingly, they started using nuclear technology for treating the seeds to get more vigor. And it was giving very good results also. I had a chance visiting Malaysian Nuclear Institute Technology, and they are also producing good amount of floriculture plants using nuclear technology. And very interestingly, there came the gamma radiation technology. This was used for irradiating all your medical devices. Now almost all your food, everything is gamma radiation, right? So the irradiation based sterilization of your food product, health products, all these things are now based on this gamma radiation technology and little improvisation of that, right? So things are they're getting evolved every day. We are also part of this developments. It is something like moving from bullock carts to hydrogen vehicles. It is something like moving from hand-made plow, wooden plows to tractors. You can see in the photograph. Everything is mechanized. Now we have air-conditioned tractors in Punjab. We have now driverless tractors. We have AI-driven tractors. We have now drones, right? We have even human-driven drones. We have self-controlled drones using GI technology. You map all these things. Now all of the drones, it will go on its own. It will complete the place, spray everything, and come back. Otherwise, we have to use the jockey to drive your drones also at different heights. Now it is not required. The things are changing now. So technology is also evolving. Complications are also evolving. We are also slowly trying to overcome that with new technologies. On top of that, on top of that, on top of that, on top of that. Like that, we go on adding layers, throwing the obsolete ones, taking the best ones, something like that. In every area we can see. Even fertilizers also we saw the same problem. At one point we saw this ammunition as a wonderful fertilizer to grow yields. And finally now we see this also as a problem for us. And finally we are telling reduce the chemical fertilizers. Because only after many years we found out, oh, our soil quality is going down like anything and we are not getting good quality. It's something like a person eating Horlicks and your porridge, traditional porridge. Traditional porridge has lot of nutrients. Horlicks carry only carbohydrates. And later they found out, oh, there's something missing. Add proteins, add DHA, add nutrients, micronutrients, reduce the sugar. So what we call as Pepsi, Diet Coke. So like that, what is that Pepsi and Coke has? Sugar, acids. Now they say, oh, sugar is bad for health. You reduce the sugar content there. So you solve the issue. And you drink that, no fellow will drink that. And almost all your taste buds are trained to take huge sugar, right? So things has to change. When it will change, go back some 30, 40, 50 years, our people never consumed huge quantities of sugar. Our people never were consuming coffee on a daily basis. Our people never had tasted tea on a daily basis. Now, without tea, people cannot survive. Without coffee, people cannot survive. And how many people had porridges? Now, it's coming in a different format. In between, there is a new thing called, what is that? Cornflakes. But we had porridge in those days. Even go to village, in the tribal areas, wherever you go, you use jowar, prepare porridge out of this, or kind of paste out of this. Use that, take on a daily basis. And even your idli, vada, dosa, whatever you prepare, the batter you prepare is a wonderful, I would say, God sent food for the world, I would say. Because it carries a wonderful proportion of your cereals, pulses, and sugar, direct sugar, to induce your appetite. Add protein to that. Next, you have protein, you have carbohydrates. Wonderful thing. How to prepare this? Bake it, idli, and put it in a tawa, you get dosa. And put it in oil, you get vada. You have a wonderful food system. And now we are craving for biryanis with X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, everything put together. Night 2 o'clock eating biryanis. We can't become sustainable. We will end up going to hospitals only. Heart attack, diabetes, all these things. Okay, coming back to our discussions. Fine. So, green economy, sustainable agriculture, this is what we are aiming for, right? Why green economy? These 4 points will satiate your requirements, I hope. There is some issue here. Okay. Oh, sorry. So, what happens here? The 4 points. The creating a green jobs and rural livelihoods. That's important, right? And aligning economic growth with ecological health. This is another requirement for you. So unless otherwise you do that, it is not going to happen. How you can do this? Who can do this? Government or private institutions or private parties? Who will do all these things? And as rightly asked, the first question asked by one of our participants, feeding the growing population sustainably. Here lies the art. We are overproducing rice. We are overproducing wheat, but we are less in producing proteins. We are less in producing oil seeds. I told you the example of oil palm in India. How do we change the way? How do we help the farmers to go back to pulse production systems? Government is coming on a pulse mission. Government is coming on an oil mission also. But still, the economy, per unit economy of the farmlands, driving people out of that. If farmers aggregate together, then they can bargain that. If 10 farmers aggregate themselves, if the farmers together they start thinking about doing agriculture, they can go back to the old system of producing cereals, pulses, oil seeds, apportion the lands, plow the land together. Even I had one a wonderful friend. He talks about farmer emancipation. He started a company, not a company, it's a non-profit company, bring farmers together. And he said only one thing. He went to the villages, talked to the farmers, he even did some experiments in Uttar Pradesh and part of little Madhya Pradesh, if I'm right, Tamil Nadu also. But what happened? Uttar Pradesh, some pockets, he started doing some experiments. Raghavan, retired from Indian Oil Corporation. You can also look for this website, Farmer Emancipation, right? He said only one thing: break the bunds, bring all the farms together, make it as a collective farms. If 100 farmers have 1 acre, make it as a single composite farm. Apportion that according to the undulations, level it, and apportion the farms based on the crops. Dedicate one part for cereals, one for pulses, one part for cash crops, and ask all the farmers to work in the same farms. Give them monthly salaries, right? And finally, ask these people to look into the profits and divide the profits among themselves. This miserably experiment failed in Tamil Nadu, but in tribal pockets of Madhya Pradesh somewhere it worked, but I don't know what happened after that. So this feeding the growing population has to do with the government. Governments can talk about only what they know. They'll talk about PDS, they will talk about fortification of PDS, rice, But why not you support cereals? I mean millets. Why not support pulses? If farmer grows pulses, remove the MSP for rice, improve the MSP for millets, improve the MSP for protein crops, pulses, improve the subsidies for oilseed crops. Then you can see a different game change happening in the agriculture fields also. But it's not happening. And water intensive crops, we talk about agriculture, paddy and wheat, sugarcane. And how do we penalize the sugarcane farmers? Can we penalize the rice farmers? Can we penalize the wheat farmers? Because once used to that, you cannot pull people out of that. The subsidy part, the reservation part, we talk about length in country, right? Once reservation given, you can take out the reservation. Once subsidy is given, you can take out the subsidies. But how do we help them understand? By slowly giving awareness to people. Oh, this fellow is also suffering. Our people are suffering. The world is suffering, right? The climate is struggling, and we are getting all acid rains. We are getting, even then people will not understand this. So we have to continuously tell people about the changes of climate change, the consequences of industrialization of the countries, right? Go to Bhutan, we talk about gross national happiness. We still talk about GDP, and we talk about GDP per capita, since because commerce I'm talking. And there is one more thing called SPI, which is slowly emerging. Social Progress Index has so many parameters. So but all India has to talk about only Social Progress Index than GDP or GDP per capita. If we talk about a GDP per capita, it will be a foolish thing for us to talk about that also. GDP itself is foolish. GDP per capita is even more foolish. We are talking about Social Progress Index. How are we providing something good for the people living in the corner of the country? Are they getting enough resources for them to live happily? Not money. We again talk about per capita income. More than per capita income, European countries are a good example, I would say. They provide all common amenities free of cost for the people. Here in our conditions, once you enter the city, our one fellow will be standing and putting his hands saying that, sir, toll fee you have to give to enter the city, sir. What for? You have to provide free toilets. You have to provide free parking spaces for people visiting your city after they are visiting your area. But we see people coming as a burden. And we have to change the way things works. Then things will automatically change. In cities, if you provide free toilets for people, say Chennai, Bangalore, or any part, Delhi or Mumbai or any population, I would say someone has to come up with the technology to capture all your urine and convert that into fertilizer. It will be a wonderful fertilizer. And world talks about for this for many years. But the problem is always there will be a kind of tag saying that this nitrogen has something to do with health hazards. You are living in a health bomb cities. Already cities are living in a worst condition. Why you worry about this nitrogen fertilizer? And the solid waste of the cities are wonderful organic products. Convert that all your when market waste, your food waste is wonderful fertilizer and give it to your farmers. Convert the way things. We have to think differently. So once this happens, things will change. But we now talk about converting farm products, converting the stubbles into useful products, converting the cow dung into useful products. But cities are the biggest polluters. Towns are the biggest polluters. And because whatever produced in the villages are transported to only the cities for consumption and towns for consumption. Villages rarely take. In those days, go back, your nutrients are circulated only in your village. You produce, you eat, you excrete, finished in the same village. But now what happened? Your nutrients are removed from your cities, villages, and transported to cities. Cities, what they do, happily excrete into the rivers and oceans. Finished. Delhi empties everything in Yamuna. Bangalore empties everything in what is that? River. Arkavati. And finally it finds in Kaveri or Pennaya, Tenpennaya, and Hyderabad has its own river, and Bombay has its own river. Every city has its own river, and they empty everything in there. Finished. And we try to burn all our waste, solid waste. So how do we change the way we work? Policies. People should change. Thinkers should change. Planners should change. Researchers also should come up with answers for the lurking problems. Then only we can go to next levels. No point in just talking. So this is one thing. Next comes, what is green economy? A economy that results in improved human well-being and social equity. So this is a clear definition of this green economy. Results in improved human well-being. So are we living in this wonderful ecosystem, a blissful ecosystem, a pollution-less ecosystem? And bring social equity means a person living in a slum, we call it as, right? And also living in a wonderful 5 crore property should get equal well-being. That is more important. Significantly reducing the environmental risk and ecological scarcities. That means the ecosystem is for all. If we talk about our atmosphere, atmosphere is not something separate for Chennai or Bangalore or Delhi or Calcutta. Atmosphere is atmosphere. Carbon addition atmosphere is for the entire world, not for Chennai alone. If an industry pollutes in Chennai, it pollutes the entire world. If an industry pollutes in the US, it pollutes the world. It has nothing to do with this local ecosystem. If a city pollutes, we are sending out a lot of microplastics into our marine ecosystem. We are not polluting our own marine ecosystem, either at Arabian Sea or Bay of Bengal. We are polluting the entire fauna of and the entire ocean ecosystem. So that means we are not trying to work on this properly, right? And we have to significantly reduce the environmental risk and ecological scarcities. How do we do this? So we have to optimize everything, whatever we do. Stepping down, it's not that easy. Stepping down is not that easy. Removing something is not easy, right? Taking out the privilege is not easy. A prime minister will always will prefer to become a prime minister. A president of India always prefer to, unless otherwise there is a time duration, everybody will prefer to sit there in the same seats. So stepping down is very, very difficult. So we have to change the way people think, the younger generation think, common man thinks. So focus on low carbon technologies, low carbon interventions, and increase the resource efficiency and bring in the social inclusion. So how do we convert the waste responsibly? How do we, even we can see this also before eyes. In those days, some 5 years back, 6 years back, before COVID, you can see hundreds of waste bottles thrown on the roadside. Now you can't see any bottles. The kabaddi wallahs collect all these things and send it to the processing centers, and all the plastics are recycled as your shirt or coat or something in different format. Many products are coming, but it requires technology development also. So it's something like a third law of thermodynamics, right? Action requires reaction, has a reaction, but here action requires a reaction. So only if you start acting, you will get a reaction. Only if you end up in a stumbling block, you will start thinking about the solutions. So every human intervention requires new solutions, no matter whatever he does. So it requires this digital laptops or your digital goods. Whatever you do requires attention. So the green economy has to do with all these things, right from your ecological balance to right to consumers to sustaining the ecosystem to all these things. And it also, I mean, presses one to work on technological innovations, pricing, comparative advantages, green financing, greening of the ecosystem. Everything comes under this. So we cannot single out anything to say that only this will be a wonderful intervention for us to say we are doing. Sometime back, people talked about Mekong Delta and Amazon forests. So what happened? They are clearing the forest. The lungs of the world is also getting cleared. If you clear something there, it will hit us. It is not. If you disturb the Himalayan ecosystem, it disturb the entire monsoon of the entire Indian peninsula. And Himalayan ecosystem is not alone. If you disturb the Western Ghats, it will disturb the entire rainfall patterns of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra. It is not alone. We are not living alone. We are a composite world. So if at all we want to really talk about this, we have to think collectively. Government should come together. We have COP, right? But COP discusses every year. They come up with very, very different models. Now, nationally determined goals. Some countries say yes, some countries say no. So this is another bigger world politics, global politics. We can't go much into this. But coming to this sustainable, what is sustainable agriculture? Farming that meets the present and without compromising the future generations. That means leaving the soil as such for our future generations, our grands, children, great grandchildren, or the progenies, leaving that ecosystem, leaving the atmosphere, leaving the water body, leaving the soil for them also to live happily, and integrate productivity, ecosystem health, and farmer livelihood. So here only we can play if at all we want to play. The first one is a thought. The second one is an actionable item. How do we bring all people together? How do we bring the farmers together to think, work collectively, act collectively, and share the benefits collectively? That only will help. One might have 1 acre, other fellow might have 5 acre, other might have 10 acres, but he will happily give it for contract farming. But he will not work collectively with the other farmer having 1 acre. Always there will be a problem of, because in our local condition we used to say there is a bund issue always with the farmers. If the fellow sleeps for 10 days, the bund will move from 1 feet to 10 feet also at times. So this is a common thing in the villages. So always this old mentality now comes. With all our geographical GI based tagging, all these things, our people are little worried. The science has to play a role, but science has to be inculcated in the minds of the people properly. Then it will change, and includes agroecology, conservation agriculture, integrated pest management. Go back some years, our farming was also like that. Now, with the advent of herbicides, what we do, we kill all the weeds on the bunds of the agricultural ecosystem. Why do we do this? Not necessary. We can control their growth. We don't have to kill them fully. We use herbicide spray and keep everything neat and clean. Like we polish our rice, we polish our sugar, we polish our oil, we polish everything. We prefer white always, even in marriages. Right? So what happens? The things are changing. We don't want a quality, neatly done bund. We need some good bund for us to walk. Why bunds are important? Why the crops, weeds in the bunds are important? The weeds are the harbors for the harmful pests and diseases. They were the protector for us, but we ignored them conveniently. Now you can see in the agriculture ecosystem, white flies is a bigger menace. And very interestingly, we brought a lot of crops like our tapioca, even this guava. We brought all these things from Thailand to India. Now we are facing a lot of white fly problem now. Otherwise, our crops used to be more sturdy. White flies never go to them. They will sit only in the weeds. Now what happened? We have invited them to come and eat our crops. Cucumbers, cucurbits, right? All these cucurbits now attract good amount of white flies. White flies, they don't come and eat just like that. They bring viruses. The viruses also play havoc in your cropping patterns, cropping systems. So these are all the cycles we are creating as human greed. So how do we help farmers to get right price for the right products? We had a regulated marketing society models. We have to go back to that. FPO should work on this. Today I was watching a video. One lady in a rural setting, she collects sweet potatoes. And sweet potato are delicacy in Southeast Asia. Even they dry, they shave it, and they also fry it and they sell it in the market. But here in our conditions, we use sweet potatoes in different format. We don't prepare fryams out of this. This lady washes, cleans, and prepares powder out of this and put it in pocket. She says she sells as a baby food. Yes, it's a very good baby food because it carries sugar also inside. It also palatable. So it can be mixed with other things and given to the children also nicely. Even your tapioca also was a wonderful staple food for many people in the dry areas in those days. Now we are using only tapioca for sabudana preparation. The industrialized. It goes as to the company, get modified into sabudana, it comes to your food plate. And very interestingly, in the North India, when if you are in fasting, you will get sabudana as a staple instead of rice. I do not know the kind of, concept behind this. Alternate your sabudana with rice with sabudana. That's a different system. So we have our own convenience of doing things. So this requires a lot of change. So the collectivism is more important. The agroecology comes in preserving your weeds in the ecosystem, right? And conservation agriculture, in those days we never used to go, right, deeper in plowing also. We just try to open up the soil. But now what happened with the kind of rotavators, we are opening the entire soil. Once you open the soil, what happens? That being in a tropical ecosystem, we are releasing all our carbon available in the soil to the atmosphere. Microbes work very faster. This you can see in open settings. If you observe in the rural settings, a cow walks, it lays dung. The dung, even for that matter, even elephant also you can take any elephant. Um, yeah, these two you can take as example. I can give you exactly. Cow dung. You can see the fresh one will be hot, and slowly it will start forming a crust on top of it. Once the crust forms, after third day you can see small holes opening up in the crust. Fourth day you can see big holes. Into that you can see small worms. That means nature had the ability to convert that into a wonderful useless thing. Finished. It will just like the diver and move out. But what happened now? In the conservation agriculture system, we are not using cow dung at all in our fields nowadays. Things have changed now. Things are moving out of the system. So what happened? Now we have to also take a cue from that. The soil opening up with the rotavators and making it a powder, and you are not allowing the air or water in the soil. You remove everything out. What happened? You add water to this. You add good amount of um, again cow dung on top of this. You add nitrogen fertilizer. What happens? Your microbe starts growing very fast. Finally, the carbon in the soil goes to the atmosphere. Otherwise, the carbon would have helped the crop to grow better. Things have changed. And integrated pest management also to do with agroecological processes. If you use your trap crops or weeds as weeds, then you don't have to spray more pesticides to your crops. Now things are changing. Allied cropping systems. So all these things has to come. That only will help us. So here the principles something like resource efficiency in terms of water, soil, energy. The puddles will take less water, and slowly they will take water and imbibe and imbibe and slowly take water into the crevices and keep it for a longer period. If they are really good at organic materials. If there is no organic material, the organic elasticity is gone. Now the opened up soil becomes a sponge. It cannot retain water. The water runoff happens. So more water is required there. And very interestingly, I have studied the coastal ecosystem where coconut is there. The soils had wonderful bacteria called Beigernichia. If you are microbiologist, you can understand. Beigernichia has you can also go to Google and find out, it has the capacity to produce extracellular polysaccharides. If there is Beigernichia, if there is organic material, the roots, this bacteria will grow. It produces good amount of very good quantities of wonderful quantities of extracellular polysaccharides that binds the soils. Now with the divide of microbes, divide of organic matter, this will not work. The ecosystem is gone. Only chemical fertilizers will be there. The fertilizers cannot go into crevices, so it also goes as a leachate. The water also leach. So finally what happens? There is no water, crop dries. There is no chemical fertilizer. If more chemical fertilizer, crop dries. Crop burn happens. So these are all the issues we face in terms of resource efficiency. The energy, in those days, it's a human energy. Now what happened? It's a mechanical energy. So we use monstrous tractors, may not require. And sometimes farmers go for continuous plowing of the farms 8 times, 5 times. Optimization of plowing is also important for you to conserve all these things. This is not happening. And next, what happens? Biodiversity conservation. You kill all the weeds. No weeds are there. We see weeds as enemies. Things are gone. The weeds gone. Ecosystem services also gone. And add more chemical fertilizers. The ecosystem services in the soil is also gone. So no microbes to survive. If no microbes, that's called microflora and microfauna. And microfauna also plays a major role. There are good and bad microfauna. There are good and bad microflora. but always the nature has its own balance to manage the bad ones with the good ones, unless otherwise the factors are not so conducive. So the balance is gone. Next comes the social equity and inclusive livelihoods. So with the small fragmented land holdings, it's very difficult for us to sustain. That is why we are asking people to come together. And the economic viable space, and if you have to bring that economic viability, resilience also will be there. If you aggregate people, automatically resilience will be there, because you will be optimizing the mechanization, you will be optimizing the fertilizer use, you will be optimizing the organic inputs, you will be optimizing the human power or mechanical power to do this agriculture operations, everything changes. So these are all intertwined. Next comes, this is more important. 1 second, there is a little disturbance here. I'll close the door and come back. The conservation agriculture also plays a major role in deciding the agriculture happening in the larger settings. So we moved out of conservation agriculture to the mechanized agriculture or the modern agricultural system. That modern agricultural system also put us into a lot of trouble. What is conservation agriculture? Have cover crops. That means maintain your soil moisture and add biochar. This is what I want to tell you. I have some slide over to one slide where we published this also. We did experiments with 20,000 farmers. Biochar gives wonderful results. And all other things, right? Use alternate crops, use deep rooting crops so that the soils also get replenished, and use minimum tillage or no tillage, and go for mulching, go for cropping systems, and integrated nutrient management, integrated water management, all will lead to help. In the right side, you can see carbon sequestration, maintaining the yield, and preserving the biodiversity, and also make your agriculture climate resilient. And also improvement in the yields also will happen provided if you are really good at doing things. So this requires continuous discussion with people. On the left, you can see all these things, the developments happening now. I'm not going deeper into that area, but the third point is important here. One is agroforestry, crop diversification, and livestock. The agriculture should have livestock also, or agriculture ecosystem should have livestock. That will be a wonderful ecosystem. We are creating that, right? And next comes the farmers meetings. This is one of the farmers meeting we do continuously for the farmers. And this person is a very good person living in US, and he is working with the farmers along with this one particular area. He comes once in a while and helps them to understand the technology. He's working on cutting edge technology in terms of IT, information technology area, especially to do with communications. So, and very interesting, this is Mr. Natarajan, 85 years old, still going talking to the farmers. So we have to continuously have dialogues with the farmers also to understand why they should take this kind of new interventions in their farms. You can see one simple thing. What we took is the prongo boxes for preserving the agricultural products, vegetables, fruits, all these things, right? And also the eco-friendly products, how they can use, and the kind of devices, simple devices, what can be used in their farms. So all these things to be farmers to be educated continuously on these things. So this is what I was telling, the biochar, how biochar can help you reduce the urea usage in agricultural settings. Not only urea, all chemical fertilizers can be reduced nicely using biochar as the component in the soils. And in the other settings, people used to say you need to add biochar in tons. But our experiment says 50 kilogram of biochar with 50 kilogram of urea apportioned in different period based on the crop cycle, that itself increases the yield or stabilizes the yield, and also reduces the chemical fertilizer usage. That is what our intention is, right? So we did with the 20,000 farmers, not only in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Indian Institute of Oil Research, into rice research, and even CRR Ekatak area, and even Bihar, even Punjab, all areas, Maharashtra, everywhere, Karnataka, we did experiments and we got very good results. So use of biochar. I'm sure tomorrow it will be an order also from the government. I'm not sure. I wonder one day it will happen, right? So like that, how do we help the people also to produce biochar in the fields using their own wastes, right? So we are spreading this to the people in the villages. And This one is a crop. We gave it to the tribal people. I'm just bringing all these things to tell how we can change little, make small alterations for the farmers. This is a rain-fed tribal ecosystem in Java the Hills between Chennai and Bangalore, right? The climate disadvantage area. Here, what we do is we try to go there. We help the people to understand the soil and also help them to provide by providing biofortified seeds. This takes care of two things. One is the agriculture. Second one is nutrition budget. This carries good amount of iron, biofortified, because it has potential to take up more iron. We are not adding iron deliberately. From soil, it takes iron more. It also gives very good yield. So two ways, because this pearl millet is a staple for the people in the area. They take pearl millet on a daily basis. It also goes with a nutrition budget. So the wasting is also addressed there. So this is one thing we try to do. And this is a holistic approach I talked in the earlier presentation. How do we take all these things to the people? So I'm not going to describe all these things, right from education to health to entrepreneurship. Everything has to be taken into holistically to give solutions. One among that is the farmer producer organizations. Of course, advocacy is done by government, non-profit organization, all people do. And skilling, continuous skilling is very much important. And marketing outlets is a requirement. And this is another big requirement. That is what even the earlier session somebody was asking me, how do we help farmers to go or the value addition of the farming also. So this is also another requirement. So all these things put together with the financial inclusion can make changes, right? So this is the model we are working now. How the integrated way with the 500,000 farmers in one cluster by bringing all people under this digital. We have to embrace technology. We have embraced technology. We have joined hands with the JP Morgan, who developed a wonderful solution for us to bring all farmers to one platform so that they get all kind of support and awareness and information. Even weather advice they get, right? And even they can get crop protection advice, and they also get credit insurance related information, and implements custom hiring centers also is another development. Instead of every farmer owning their own, equipments, they can have a custom hiring centers, common service centers kind of model, so that anybody wants in cycles they can take it and use it also. And yeah, integrated warehouse and the integrated market system, all these things along with certification will go a long way. And also you need to use the local language, everything along with the traceability also. So this is an integrated model. We are working in different pockets, right, to give solutions. So this is how things works. So go to the area, collect the data periodically, means the basic data along with cropping patterns and the crop management patterns, crop husbandry. Then communicate with people, with the farmers, among farmers, and with all farmers. We try to provide systems so that every farmer will get address knowledge about other farmers also and the other settings also, so that we are democratizing the knowledge also to the farmers. Then you add this information and supply many things also together and schedule the timings also and help the farmers to network among themselves for better information, and also use the technology to provide all these facilities through this reliable scaled up data networking with low cost or cost effective communication systems. It could be a blanket communication, two-way communication, one-way communication to selective farmers, selective villages, and selective target population. All these things are possible with the modern technological developments, right? This goes like this. The agricultural practices happening like this. So not going deeper in this area, but I'm giving only few things. One is practices and use of bio inputs, because we advocate more of organic, and then soil analysis also forms part of it. So farmer gets knowledge on soils, and they also get knowledge on how to produce in the farms and use in the farms and give it to the farmers. The practices also are captured finally to arrive at a decision supporting system to help them during the next cropping patterns. This is what I was telling about custom hiring centers. This is a very new information, November 9th, yesterday information. In Punjab, this talks about this. How this custom hiring centers as a game changer to help the farmers to use this collectively. This is a new development and government support systems. And here, this are the factors listed 7 factors listed by World Economic Forum that will change the way we do agriculture now. One is generative artificial intelligence. By collecting data, as I showed earlier in our earlier slides, collect data and also analyze intelligently and come up with wonderful vision, right? And use of robotics and machinery to till the fields. And finally, use this Internet of Things also to give solutions. Satellite remote sensing will add all these things together. And finally, gene editing. Of course, there are, for and against, but this is a technology listed by World Economic Forum as one of the game-changing technologies in agriculture. This is also working now. And of course, added to this, nanotechnology. How nanotechnology also reduce the use of chemical fertilizers and the way we do inputs, use inputs also as part of this. So these are the going that is going to change. Policy level, already we discussed this. National missions on sustainable agriculture, millet missions are there. And the second point is more important. We discussed that subsidy realignment towards sustainable inputs and practices, like moving your subsidy from urea to other fertilizers. Otherwise, a fertilizer urea bag costs 400 rupees, but original bag cost for the government is around 2000, 1800, 2000 rupees. That means nearly 70 to 80% cost is subsidized. So if you remove that, the use of fertilizer will go down. Our judicious use of fertilizer will go up so that we can reduce the cost. And supporting more FPOs, extending the services through FPOs, and green chemicals. Nowadays, world is talking about this bio inputs, not chemical inputs. Even for field improvement, pesticidal activity, herbicidal activity, world talks about bio inputs, not to harm the other ecosystem. Targeted removal of weeds using drones. There's another development happening. And then come up with regulatory incentive for slow carbon farming and landscape restoration. Suppose somebody is doing pure organic farming with no chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers also have its own ecosystem services, ecosystem issues. So if you reduce this much amount of chemical fertilizer, you are reducing this much carbon. If you are using this much machinery, you are reducing this much, you are increasing this much carbon, right? If you add more organic fertilizers, you are adding more carbon. So like that, we can calculate ESGs, environment, sustainability, and governance kind of things, right? Always come under this also. The ecosystem services played by all these things will add value to the policy and institutional frameworks. Then comes economic instruments and financing. There are always known as green bonds, climate funds, blended finance for agri businesses. You know very well, NABARD gives repo rates only at repo rates. The financial institutions also giving to the farmers at higher interest rates. If at all you want to reduce, farmer producer organization can play a role joining hands with NABARD by getting money from the NABARD and giving it a cheaper cost also. Like that, a lot of other things. Payment ecosystem is what I told earlier. Carbon farming credits for reduced mechanization, reduced inputs, and increased human labor and increased soil quality improvement. All these things will come under this. And crop insurance is another game changer now for helping the farmers who are really in distress or troubled with natural calamities. So credit tailored to sustainable investments. So this is another big area we can discuss later. Credit tailored to sustainable investments. Then comes public private partnership for infrastructure, cold chains processing. Not to be in the hands of the intermediaries, it should be in the hands of the farmer producer organizations so that farmer producer organization manage this or the buying organization manage this. Means you are creating a level playing field, either farmer owned or buyer owned. So this is an area where we can create such kind of facilities. So this also will be another model. So here, this is what we have developed now. So how do we create a value chain linking the farmers and customers? So we have to move towards that. The organic fat trade practices are already happening. Climate smart products also happening. And short supply science that to customers, we can see something happening in the settings now. Startup companies are playing a bigger role in this area. And this one, certification, traceability, and premium pricing. So this is where we can play a bigger role. The traceability, if you are getting the knowledge about the farmer growing particular variety, we can very well say which farm it emanates and which food plate it goes. You can easily bring that kind of linkage and also bring that certification in between and help the farmers to get better pricing for that. And another next one is food processing and export markets, adding value to this. Of course, this is a process we are trying to create between the farmers and the consumers, and use of volunteers and organizations, all these things together, right? So, not to go deeper, I want to close this by now. The time is 8:24. Oh, I have to finish this. We'll finish fast. And case studies are there and examples are there, like what we have as a millet mission and community water management systems. Now it's also getting more support, and FPO-led aggregation of products and distribution of products, and also exports through the FPOs, and of course regenerative practices for ESGs, right? So all these things are already there in the market, and also they are here and there. Only thing, we have to bring all things together, right? That is very much possible. If you want to have a session, we can talk separately. There are so many challenges already there. Everything is addressed in different pockets and different models, because we are in a different agroclimatic regions. Every region has its own, requires its own models to be developed. We can't say that one solution fits for all. It's going to be difficult. So these things also has to be worked accordingly, right? And then here, this is where we need to start working on aligning subsidies with sustainability outcomes. So tomorrow also will be working on these models. Government has to work on this. So like we do for, we match the sustainable development goals for the cities, villages, and also industries. We have to align that with farms also. How do we align this for sustainability outcomes? And give subsidies only for those farmers doing well. If they're getting 10 points, this money, 20 points, this money, 15 points, this money. So this requires, grading them also. And scale the FPO's rural entrepreneurship for value addition, invest in climate resilient technologies, develop robust monitoring system. This only will help us to even align the subsidies for other things, right? And blended finance instruments. This is a final slide. If you see this, the green economy plus sustainable agriculture leads to resilience and inclusive growth. But how? Lot of things to be worked out, steps to be worked out. Of course, the integrated policy and market incentives will work as one pointer. Community-led action is a major requirement for things to happen large scale level, but there are opportunities for making farming as profitable, climate smart, and future ready. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I stop here. If there are any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Good evening, sir. I'm Chandani. Am I audible?
Yes, madam. You are audible, madam.
Yeah, it was a wonderful session, sir. I have a question for you. As we are discussing about the sustainability and green everything, nowadays most of the farmers they have adopted for the green revolution,
Mm.
where they are using for in like high yield variety of seeds, which
Right.
consumes a lot of underground water.
Mm.
Like apart from that, they are also using like artificial irrigation systems,
Mm.
which like affects both in positive and negative way.
Mm.
Positive means where it help us in giving the food security and helps in the like food for all. Whereas on another way, if we see, it affects the environment. So how it can be balanced? So can you give some kind of like suggestions in your own way?
We did experiments. We are doing experiments for many years. The first thing, for 10 years back, people said, you have to go and talk to the farmers, convert everybody organic. Our experiment failed. Because you cannot just like ask the farmers to just like move from chemical fertilizer to organic fertilizers. Impossible. We took a different stand. We started giving organic inputs to the farmers. First, 2 years we gave organic inputs. Jivamritam, Panchakavya, even asked them to prepare their own inputs. Like that, we trained farmers to start using this as a supplement. First thing. Second thing, what we did is we went and talked to the farmers to reduce the chemical fertilizers. Not much. Reduce 10 kilograms or 5 kilograms. And then we started doing experiments with biochar kind of things. So now we can concretely say 50%, chemical fertilizer can be reduced. Only farmer seeing is believing, right? And farmer is also not making big profits out of this. He can create something small, stone, big profits. It's not the case. So he works with a huge, product for small profits. So he need to be ensured about that. And this is a misconception. High yielding varieties take more water and more fertilizers. Not the case. They are fertilizer responsive varieties, it's called. They are not fertilizer guzzling varieties. You can add fertilizers, they will give you optimum yield. You use that what rice requires wetting and drying. That's more than enough. You don't have to flood your water. The flooding happens purely because to reduce your weeds. But provided if you are maintaining your farm by not adding cow dung directly, but converting that into some fertilizer and filter that and add your field, your weed will go down like anything. Right? So these are all the practices we have to inculcate in the minds of the farmers. Go to coconut farms, the ecosystem will say, don't allow any weeds in between the coconut. Even mango farms, don't allow anything. Weeds will eat everything, so you will not get mangoes. But it's not the case, I would say. It's a trade-off between this. If you remove this, you will get more pests. If you maintain this, you will get wonderful cover, you will get more yield. The cost will get compensated. The input what you use will get compensated. You use more chemical fertilizers, you use more pesticides, whereas if you maintain organically, use fertilizers, use less fertilizers, and instead of plowing the weeds, you use the brush cutter of cut the weeds. Don't allow them to overgrow. That's all. That means whatever you cut goes into the soil. They go as a fertilizer to your farms, right? And use organic inputs profusely. Help understand people also to understand why they should use more in organic inputs. So automatically your cost goes down. Increase the organic load of your soil. Chemical leaching will go down. Water pollution will go down. So these are all more to do with the practical implementation of your processes than just giving sermons to the farmers. So it requires patience. We need to work closely with the farmers to make them understand why they should do this, why they should not do this. A farmer, paddy farmer, once he see a bug, immediately go to the shop and ask for some fertilizer, pesticides. Monocrotopus will be small. That will give them only 40 rupees to 30 rupees. The profit for the seller will be 10 rupees. What he will do? He will give monocrotopus. He will give one more 100 rupees and third one 150 rupees. He will give all this dump on these fellows. So financial burden of the farmer goes up. But whether that farm requires pesticide or not is a big question. There are eco-friendly methods of even controlling them also. Not necessarily you have to spend money. So it all requires practicing, going to the farmers, helping the farmers to understand and watch the crop, go to the field and watch the crop and see what to be done, what not to be done. Then you are game.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Thank,
much.
thank you, madam. Madam, I have a request. If there is no questions, I can hop to other meeting. There is another meeting. Yeah, as I told in the first thing, I had to be part of another lecture on Datop and Tengdi, right?
Okay.
So they
Thank you
schedule.
so much. Yeah.
So I think
Thank
there
you
are no
so much,
questions
sir.
in the chat box also. Then please allow me to move. So that if there are questions, they can even reach out to me. My phone number are there with you. You can share my slides so that anytime if they want, they can come back to me. Thank you all. Thank you so much for your patience and
Sure, sir.
also
Sure, sir.
interactions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable and thought-provoking insights on Indian agriculture. Your session has indeed been highly informative and enriching for all the participants. We are truly grateful to you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today, sir. Every successful event stands upon with collaborative efforts of many individuals working behind the scenes. I would like to thank our principal, Dr. Balu, who supports in adding academic endeavor of the institution. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank our Vice Principal, Professor Hemant Upada, IKSC Coordinator, Dr. Gurunath, HOD, Professor Beka MP, Director MBA, Dr. Venkatesh, HOD BCom, Professor Murgesha BN, and the heads of all the departments. who started us in planning, who supported us in planning and executing this FGP. And I also thank all the participants for your active involvement and enthusiastic participation throughout the session. Thank you all. Thank you once again. Pavitra ma'am,
Yeah. Thank you.
can we wind up ma'am?
Yeah,
Can we
thank you,
wind up?
Shruti ma'am. Thank you, Seshadri sir.
Thank you ma'am. Ma'am, actually sir left. I think so sir has
Okay.
meeting
Yes, yes.
informed that time only.
Yes, ma'am, you conclude it.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. I thank all the participants. You can leave the meeting.